you tell me a story? Very well. I will tell you a story. It begins on a dark, stormy night in April, in the middle of a pandemic.
What are you guys doing?
Nothing.
Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Sam, and today I'm with Esteban and Kat. They're joining me because today I'm going to tell you guys my birth story. So let's get going. So my birth story starts at 38 weeks. So at my 38-week appointment with my doctor, which was on a Tuesday, I had told him that I started feeling a little different. At my 36-week appointment, everything was still going smooth. I still was not really having any pregnancy symptoms, and it was all kind of easygoing. I was just felt like I was getting a little slower, a little bigger. At my 38-week appointment, everything was different. I felt like the baby had dropped a lot. I was feeling everything in my pelvic area. I was extremely tired all the time, and I definitely felt like she wanted to make her entrance into the world. And I told my doctor that, and he checked me out, and he said, yep, she seems like she's in position to come anytime soon now, so we're probably gonna see you next time at the hospital. And I was like, cool, we're gonna get ready to have a baby. So Thursday afternoon, I'm taking a nap, and I had already started feeling a lot of things in my pelvic area starting as of 37 weeks. So when I woke up from my nap and I started feeling some things here and there, I was like, it's normal, it's, you know, she's getting ready to come anytime soon. I was kind of expecting to feel contractions before anything else to indicate that I was going to be going into labor. I wake up from my nap, I go to the restroom, and I saw some blood, and I was like, oh, that's not good. That's an indicator that labor might be coming soon. So let me call the nurse's line. So I come out and I tell Esteban, I go, hey, just so you know, I don't want to worry you guys, but I did see a little bit of blood. I'm going to call the nurse's line, see what they want me to do. Call them up, and I told them what happened, and they said, you know what, let's get a nurse on the phone for you, that way she can tell you what to do. I said, okay. I'm waiting on hold to talk to a nurse, and I'm sitting at the dinner table with Esteban. He had been getting dinner ready, and he had just sat down with his plate, and I look at him and I say, I think my water just broke. And
then I said, hold on, let me finish my food.
And he scarfed his dinner.
Spaghetti.
He scarfed that food so fast because
I knew I wasn't going to get out of the room.
So what had happened prior to this was that my last 2 appointments had been pandemic appointments, meaning that there was nobody allowed in the room with me anymore. We had to wear masks the whole time, and they had already started telling me that I was allowed to have only one person in the room with me, but once we were checked in, that's it. No leaving, no getting out to go get food, no going out to smoke any cigarettes, no nothing. Once you were in the room, that's it.
Yeah, we don't smoke them.
No, we don't. But because we knew that we weren't going to be able to leave the room, his first instinct was, let me finish my food as fast as possible. So I'm sitting on hold, and I'm feeling water come out, and I'm like, oh, this is my water breaking. So the nurse finally comes on the phone, and she says, how can I help you? And I told her, so I was calling because I had originally seen some blood, and I was going to tell you that I didn't know what you guys wanted me to do. But as I was waiting on hold for you, I believe my water just broke. And she goes, oh, so did your water break, or do you think your water broke? And I said, I'm pretty sure my water just broke. And so she said, okay, what I want you to do is I want you to monitor it. Check to see if you're still leaking fluid. If you are still leaking fluid, then come into the hospital. We need to get you checked in. If you're not leaking fluid, then you're fine, and you can stay home and labor a little bit. And I said, okay. So I get up, I go to the room, and I'm changing, and I said, yep, my water definitely just broke. We're going to the hospital and we're having a baby. So immediately, we had already had our bags packed and in the car since my 38-week appointment, and immediately we grabbed the rest of the things we needed. We called our parents and we're like, hey guys, just wanted to let you know, we're on our way to the hospital to have the baby. And how would you describe the drive to the hospital?
I was not joking when I said it was a dark, stormy night. It was raining because it was April. And it was raining, and yeah, we're on our way to the hospital and in the middle of a pandemic.
The funniest part for me was that I was definitely in labor. My water had broken, but I wasn't feeling any contractions. So all the way to the hospital, he was saying, are you sure you don't feel anything? And I said, I think I feel a little bit of something, but I can't be too sure because I've never been in labor before, so I don't know what a contraction it feels like. So I don't know. And I really didn't know. I didn't know until I got to the hospital and I started feeling contractions, that what I was feeling was a contraction. I didn't have Braxton Hicks when I was pregnant. I didn't really have any weird pregnancy symptom or anything like that. I kind of just had an easygoing pregnancy where I was just growing a human inside of me. I didn't really feel anything. So I got to the hospital. They made him wait in the waiting room, and I went into triage on my own, and the nurse confirmed that it was my water that had broken and that I was in labor. And I arrived at the hospital with no contractions, and I was already 4 centimeters dilated, and I felt nothing. So the doctor said, all right, we're going to start you on Pitocin because you haven't started your contractions yet, but your water's broken, so we want to get things moving along. And once we have done that, then we can move you into your room and we'll bring in your husband. And I said, okay. So they start me on Pitocin, but because I was laboring through COVID, they had to do a COVID test on me. So I'm sitting in triage. I've got water leaking. I am in labor, and they have to do a COVID test on me. And it wasn't just the easy, simple one where they swab your mouth or whatever. It was up in my nose, the back of my mouth, and it was not pleasant at all, especially not during labor. But finally, once my COVID test came back negative and they got me all checked in and everything, they sent me to the room and they told me, all right, you're checked in. You can call your husband and let him know to let you in, tell him your room number, and they'll send him in and he can come in with you now. But once you guys are in here, just know that you guys can't leave.
Meanwhile, I'm all by myself with all of our bags in the waiting room, which I would assume there would have been more people in there normally, but I'm the only person there, all by myself. So I'm furiously texting people, oh, baby's coming, this is happening, blah, 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 blah. Everyone's like, oh, good luck, congratulations. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to sit here, and I think I took a little nap. There's nothing else to do. I didn't know if I was going to have to get a COVID test. I didn't. And eventually, yeah, she called. No nurse or doctor came. It was her. She's like, hey, come on in. I'm like, okay.
So he finally comes in. The nurse lets me know, hey, so what is your medication plan? What is your feeding plan for after the baby's born? And I said, I am planning on having an epidural, and I really want to breastfeed. And she said, okay. So she wrote that on the board, and she goes, since you want an epidural, just let me know whenever you want it. You can get it at any point. So whenever you feel like you're ready for it, just let me know. That way we can get the anesthesiologist in here, and that way we can put you on the list because there's other laboring women and you have to be put next. And I said, okay, cool. So,
Pro tip: when they say you can get epidural anytime you want, dads say, "Honey, take it now." Pro tip, right there.
so the reason he says this is because he walks in and he says, "What did they tell you about your epidural?" And I said, "Oh, she told me I can get it whenever I wanted." And he said, "Okay, so then when are you going to get it?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't know at what point this is going to get bad because I've never been in labor before." And this was the whole thing that was going through my mind, was that I know it's going to get worse. I just didn't know at what point it was going to get so bad that I couldn't handle it anymore, and I needed the epidural, and I didn't know if I should preemptively get it so that I could have it already by the time that it did get bad, or if I should wait until it got bad and then get it, but then you'd have to wait to get it, which makes worse sense because then you are sitting there in pain waiting for the epidural to come to you. So I wasn't too sure, and the thing was that I was put on Pitocin, and the reason I was put on Pitocin was because my contractions hadn't started when I got into labor. So because my water was already broken and they needed to put me on Pitocin makes your contractions come a lot faster and a lot stronger, and I was getting my contractions kind of like back to back because of the Pitocin, and so it was kind of hard for me to take a breather in between contractions. And it wasn't so much that I couldn't handle the contractions. My whole thing was that I wasn't getting breaks in between contractions because they were all on top of each other because of the Pitocin. And so I ended up getting the epidural, and the nurse was like, "Okay, in 15 minutes the anesthesiologist will be in here to give you your epidural because you're next in line. He's already doing one on a mom." And I said, "Okay."
Which is actually important because I think there's like 4, maybe 5 other women who were who were in labor at the same time, and they're literally, once we said it, we're like, "Okay, you're next in line," because then you really have to wait because there's only one anesthesiologist who can provide all that, and so it was literally first come first serve, and so the nurse, even the doctor, were like, "Well, good thing that you asked for it because you would have had to wait." So
yeah, so I got the epidural, and it wasn't that bad. I don't know if it was just my experience with getting the epidural or because I was kind of already uncomfortable with the whole labor, that the epidural really wasn't a big deal to me. So it was fine. They laid me back to make sure that the epidural was kicking in, and then finally once the epidural kicked in, I was smooth sailing. They checked me again, and at that point I was 5.5 centimeters, so I had only kind of gotten up 1.5 centimeters, and it had already been maybe 2.5 hours since I had gone into the hospital, so I was kind of progressing kind of slowly. Once they put the epidural on me and I was able to calm down and kind of relax, my contractions evened out. They tried upping my Pitocin because that's kind of the way Pitocin works, is they'll start you off low and then they'll up it so that your contractions come a little faster and closer. And they tried doing that to me, but then my contractions were becoming too irregular and too erratic, and the nurse said, "Oh, we can actually lower it. Your body's doing just fine on the low dose of the Pitocin." And I said, "Cool." So I took a nap, and I went into labor at like 9 o'clock at night. At like 8 something, I called the advice nurse, and that's when my water broke. And so around 5 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and I kind of couldn't go to sleep anymore. I know I should have been sleeping a little longer because you're not going to get any sleep once the baby is born, but I couldn't sleep anymore. And so right around then, the nurse comes in and she asked me how I was doing, and she said that she was going to check me because it had been a few hours. And she checked me, and I was at 9 centimeters already at 5 in the morning. So I was like, cool. And so she says, "So it seems like we're gonna have baby anytime now. So whenever you start feeling a lot of pressure down there because you've got the epidural and you're not really gonna feel pain, just let me know and we can go ahead and start pushing." So
I like to note that she skipped over this part where we actually slept. I guess you would have been in active labor for about what 10 or like what, 7-8 hours. Like we would have just been hanging out, and we had brought games and everything they tell you to do, like stuff that we could use, like occupy our time. Because it was the evening, we were like super tired, so we just like slept, and that was pretty awesome.
They kind of tell you to do all of that because when you're a first-time mom, your labor can be kind of long, so it doesn't really always move as fast as mine did. But as I said, I walked in already 4 centimeters dilated, so it kind of moved along pretty quickly in terms of the fact that by the time we got the epidural and got some rest and woke up, it was just time to have baby. So I hung around for a while, and the nurse comes back in around 7 in the morning, and she said, "How are we doing?" And I said, "I think I feel some pressure." So she checked me and she's like, "Yep, we're ready to have baby." So she set me up and she let me know how things were going to roll, and she said, Dad's gonna hold one leg, I'm gonna hold the other one, and then you're just gonna push, and we're gonna, see how far we can get, and then once we see that baby is coming, closer, then we'll call in the doctor so that she can finish you up and, deliver the baby.
I was quite surprised how much of an active participant I was allowed to be. Like, I wasn't too sure what I was gonna be allowed to do. I thought I was just gonna be maybe like the camera guy, off to the side, or, at the top of the bed, like, helping mom with her breathing. But no, they had me like get up in there. Like, I was like, okay. So I was coach, and then I was a stirrup, basically. And just helping her out, and that during the whole labor process, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so I pushed for about an hour or two. I pushed about an hour and a half. And we were progressing really well. And then there was a shift change in nurses. And when the next nurse came in, she changed my position because she wanted to try something else out. And we were pushing. And the odd thing was that we were seeing baby's head. She was looking like she was progressing downwards, but somewhere during the pushing process, they kind of lost my contractions. Now, when you're in labor, they put 2 monitors on you. One is a heart monitor and the other one is a contraction monitor. And the way that they count your contractions with that monitor is that they locate baby's bottom and they put it wherever baby's bottom is. So they couldn't find her bottom to put that monitor. And since I had the epidural, they were kind of counting on the monitor to know when I was having a contraction to tell me when to push. And because they weren't finding the contractions with the monitor, it was getting a little difficult for me when I was pushing to see when it was the next time for me to push. So that's when things started getting a little more interesting. So the nurse started trying to change my position, and baby would come out towards the top and then she would come back in. Another weird thing that was happening was that her heart rate was going down whenever I was pushing, and so they feared that she might have had the umbilical cord wrapped around her neck, and that was causing distress on her pushing. Now, when I stopped pushing, her heart rate would go back up. So they were okay with letting me continue to push, but they were still a little wary of her heart rate and of how she was doing, so they wanted to get her out fast. So they gave me the option of vacuuming her out or getting a C-section, and they let me push for a little longer. And after I was pushing for a little while, they were seeing that her heart rate wasn't really coming back up as fast as it was before after a push, and it was getting really hard to detect the contractions. So they said, you need to make a decision now. We need to vacuum her out or we need to do an emergency C-section. So I decided to vacuum her out because she was already so close and I had been pushing for so long that I figured that would be the best method. So once I made that decision, it was like a switch went off. They called the doctor in so she could do the vacuuming, and once I made that decision, it was like a swarm of people came into the room. Like, we had 2 people originally, and then just like the doctor came in, and then a bunch of nurses started coming in, and it was like one nurse after another gloving up and going, "I heard you guys need assistance," and all of these nurses were coming in going, "Assistance, assistance, assistance."
It was quite literally like, I mean, those rooms in Kaiser are pretty big. We're like, oh, this is a very nice suite, you know. It's just the 2 of us. It's pretty nice. And then, like, 0 to 60. Like, all of a sudden, it's just a swarm of people were there. We're, like, each doing something different. Somebody's grabbing this, prepping a table, doing something else, taking readings. Or I'm like, where did all these people come from?
So the doctor eventually told me, all right, we're going to do 3 pushes. If we can't get her out in 3 pushes, we're going to need to do a C-section. So the doctor said on the second push, give me one good one. I pushed really hard. She pulled. And then she said, "Mom, look down. You just had a baby." And I did this like slow motion pan from Esteban to the doctor, and she's like bringing up the baby and laying her on me, and I was like, oh my god, I just had a baby. Like, I can't believe it. 9 months later, there was actually a human growing in my belly, and I can't believe I just had a baby. And it was so surreal, and I just couldn't believe that there was a little human there.
Meanwhile, I'm trying to get the audio because we had a request from a family member saying, we want to hear the baby's first cry. So, like, I'm audio recording, not filming anything because I believe there was a policy that you weren't supposed to. And then all of a sudden, the doctors are like, or the nurses were like, give me your phone. And I'm like, what? I'm like, why? I didn't know I was supposed to have it. And basically they're like, no, we want you to cut the umbilical cord. And then the nurses wanted to take a picture of me cutting the umbilical cord. And my phone wouldn't work because it was like audio recording and not, a filming. So they couldn't figure it out. Meanwhile, I finally get to cut the cord. And I think I just grabbed the phone and I was like, okay, snap it. It was like almost like a selfie, like after I post cut. But that was...
It was kind of funny because I was watching this whole interaction with the doctor saying, "Dad, do you want to cut the cord?" And he was like, and then the nurse was like, give me your phone. And the doctor was handing him the scissors, and she was telling him to cut, and the nurse was like, give me your phone. And he's like handing over his phone, looking scared like he's going to get in trouble. And then the doctor's like, you need to cut the cord. And then he's cutting the cord and handing his phone to the nurse, and the nurse can't figure out the phone. She's like, I can't. And then he's like, I don't. And then the doctor's like, give me back the scissors. Because he just like cut the cord and then was standing there with the scissors, like not knowing what to do, looking confused. And the doctor was looking like, okay, I need to take the scissors away from this guy. And
I don't even remember any of that part. But
it was so funny because I know he doesn't remember it because I'm pretty sure he was paying attention to the nurse who couldn't figure out why his phone wasn't working, and she wanted to take a picture of him, and there's so many things going on right there. And they took her off because since she had been in distress, they needed to make sure that she was okay, that they didn't need to take her to the NICU, and that she was breathing fine and everything. So they take her off, and I overhear that they are taking her weight and that the nurse says 5 pounds, 9 ounces. And I'm overhearing that on this end, and then on this end I'm hearing the doctor go, I need more stitches. And I'm going, this little tiny baby is having me get all of these stitches? Are you sure the baby's not bigger than that?
Yeah, the whole time when they were having her push, the only reason they said that they didn't have to do C-section was because they was such a small baby. So we kind of knew, but little things do big damage.
Yeah, so after 3 hours of pushing, after some distress, a cord around her neck, her being sunny side up, after all of that, April 10th, 10:02 a.m., we finally got our beautiful little 5-pound, 8-ounce baby. And it was the most amazing thing to finally have her come into the world and finally make us parents. And here she is, 6 months later, the most active and chatty baby that you have ever met. And she's so lovable and so cheery, and I couldn't have asked for a better baby. Alright guys, so that is our birth story. So having a baby during a pandemic was different. It was the beginning of the pandemic, so for me, they didn't make me wear the mask the whole time. They made me wear the mask when I entered the hospital and when I was in triage, but once I entered into my labor room, they let me take the mask off, and I had to wear the mask when I exited the hospital, but the mask mandates were not too tough when I did it. I know a lot of moms have different experiences nowadays with their labors having to wear masks during the entire labor, so I feel for those moms, and I'm kind of lucky that I didn't have to the entire time, but it still was a very interesting experience with the way that things were being handled and the way that he had to wait out in the waiting room, and the fact that he was the only one that was allowed to be there.
I mean, I think from that point, I kind of liked the fact that it was just me and you. We didn't have to worry about people coming in and out. They didn't get to see them, but we got to FaceTime with people and, show the baby that way. But, we didn't have to worry about, constantly entertaining people throughout the whole experience.
Right, so our parents did meet her over FaceTime first, and it was a little different in that aspect, but we did get to have our own time with her. We got to bond with her as parents and experience our first couple of days with her, just kind of immersed in our baby, and it was kind of a nice experience that way, and we'll see in the future how that differs with other births, but that part I really appreciated. And so if you guys have labored through a pandemic, please leave a comment down below and let me know how it went for you guys. How did you feel about those things? If you liked this video, hit that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Here's my social media handles. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.
Say bye.
Say bye. Say bye.